Welcome to Insights from the Trenches, the series where we explore ADHD marriages and relationships. I am Alice, your host dedicated to helping couples and individuals navigate ADHD. Each month, we bring you conversations with ADHD couples, individuals, and experts who share their experiences, strategies, and tips to help you thrive in your relationship. Whether you are the non-ADHD partner, living with ADHD, or seeking to understand more, our goal is to provide practical advice and heartfelt stories you can relate to and learn from. Our mission is simple. It is to empower you with knowledge that can foster better understanding and build a stronger, thriving ADHD relationship. So grab a cup of coffee and join us. Together, we can turn ADHD challenges into deeper connections and lasting love. Hello, Melissa. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So I know that we have a lot of questions. So I'm just going to go straight into it. When should an ADHD couple seek professional help?
At the point at which you're just starting to feel distressed. Better to do it sooner and reconnect than to struggle and make it get worse and have the things that get said in that struggling period can't be unsaid. And particularly if the relationship is volatile, some pretty nasty things can get said between either partner.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of times is that, I think I speak about this because I came from a family that really had no mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know how to use therapy or seeing a psychiatrist. We don't know where to draw the line. And a lot of people are kind of in the same boat until they are really overwhelmed and stressed and feel like everything is lost and they still don't know that they need to go get help. So,
Yeah.
Being able to hear you saying that, hey, when these things happen, you should go check out a professional to support. I think it's helpful for people that are going through.
Yeah, and I think mental health services are becoming destigmatized as well. If you think of a marriage as a very difficult path where there's just ongoing negotiation, I mean, people need negotiation assistance rather regularly in the business world and other things. You hire people to help you work through those things. So no reason in the feelings department or the mental health department you shouldn't be doing the same thing. And I think that you, particularly if you've been in a long relationship, you get into patterns that are very hard to break away from if you don't have a third party pointing them out, helping you see your own part of it, because we move into our own side of those patterns with what feels very logical to us, but which may still not be a healthy coping strategy. And so a third party can really help sort of undo some of the just unthought about patterns.
Yeah, no, great advice. When do you know, or when do you advise them seeking help as a couple versus seeking help just for themselves? Or should they do both at the same time?
That depends completely on who they are and what their needs are. So I actually have non-ADHD support groups that you know about. And I find that that's a particularly useful way for non-ADHD partners to start to get support because they find out, among other things, they're not alone. They're not crazy, and there are lots of other people who are having the same experiences. And being a non-ADHD partner can be very isolating because people are kind of like, what do you mean? Your wife is the life of the party. She's great, and you're just like, ah. So that's one option. And also if there's grief or deep sadness, I actually think that's worth talking to a professional about, somebody who understands both ADHD and grief, because that's really hard to get around any other way than really talking with somebody about it. The couples work, you have to both be on board. Right, so that's one of the criteria for starting that. If the ADHD partner is resistant to the idea, then you shouldn't bother because you're not going to get anywhere. And in all cases, when ADHD is a factor, you should be working with somebody who understands it, because otherwise the professional may well fall into the same kinds of traps that non-professionals do when they don't understand ADHD. They may misinterpret what's going on, give advice that is good for neurotypical people, but not so useful for people who have ADHD. So
let's pivot to like give some advices to spouses who are listening to this interview here. What advice would you give to a non-ADHD spouse who's struggling to see a positive future in their relationship?
So again, I always start with making sure that you really understand what the various aspects of a relationship are. The patterns in these relationships are exceptionally predictable. So if you learn about it, like you'll see those patterns as well as understand some of the approaches that you can take to help get out of those patterns. So that knowledge is really, really an important starting place. And then after that, I think you have to be realistic. So there's a certain amount of time that needs to happen. Both people have to be on board. So this ability, like for example, you might have a partner you think has ADHD, but who hasn't been evaluated. Approaching them, you have to approach them pretty carefully. I've been reading this stuff. There are these patterns that are showing up that may reinforce this idea. Our daughter has ADHD and it's hereditary. I'm wondering if it might make sense for an evaluation. And here's why I care about it, because there are things that are known to help couples who are in distress, and I feel as if we're in distress. So I think you really want to get support, get educated, be thoughtful, because you probably are feeling kind of resentful towards your partner if you've been struggling for a while. Be thoughtful about and respectful about how you approach them, because there's likely to be sensitivity around the issues of ADHD. They've been having people critiquing them for a long time, and you don't want them to be defensive. You want them to be on your team.
Awesome. What about for ADHD partners? What are some of the practical steps that they could take to rebuild trust and win back their non-ADHD spouses?
Well, I run into this, and it's really heartbreaking, actually. They finally, that the non-ADHD partner says, I'm done. This is your problem. I'm not doing anything else until you fix it, right? So that's that mutual denial again, which is that if you just fix the ADHD, everything will be fine, and I don't have to look at myself. And so what I would say to an ADHD partner is, you're not going to change that person's mind at the moment. They're in that mindset. They're going to stay there for a while. So rather than protest or beg or otherwise prostrate yourself in front of them, instead, go start working on the ADHD management. Get knowledgeable about what it looks like in relationships. Get knowledgeable about what treatment looks like, good treatment. I actually have a free treatment guide on my homepage that gives an overview of what good treatment looks like. It doesn't give the specifics, but it gives resources for finding out more and stuff. But the partner who has ADHD, the reason that their other partner is completely boxed out is because that other partner has probably been saying for a while, this is not working for me. And the ADHD person has not heard them. And so the best thing they can do is go learn how to manage their ADHD. And I always say, look, if you're going to pick a symptom to make your first target symptom, make it something your partner cares about. Don't make it focus at work. That's probably not going to help your relationship particularly. And go from there, because then you can go back to the partner and say, I took you seriously. I heard you. Here are the 5 things that I have done. I've hired a coach. I've got the full evaluation. I'm doing the following treatments, and here's my management strategies. And you may have noticed that now I keep a calendaring system that's different, and blah, 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 blah. I took you seriously. I'm doing all these things. I've stepped up. I am much more reliable than I used to be. And I so apologize for not hearing it sooner. Now we need to work together to work on the relationship. I've started the ball rolling, and now you need to join back in.
Yeah. No, I think one of the things I really agree with you is the fact that communicating your progress.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like even in my relationship, it's about if I hear about the progress, it makes me that much more willing to participate and work together versus not hearing about the progress.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, if you've been struggling, interactions can be difficult, and ADHD partners are often afraid to interact with their non-ADHD partners because they fear that they're going to get judged or that they're going to get critiqued or that they're not going to be good enough, and they really, really want to do well by that partner, but their experience has often been that they haven't done well enough for that partner and that the partner lets them know that. And so they're slow to be transparent about the progress they're making because a non-ADHD partner who is tired of all of this and who can set their sights on something and do it quickly, if they just, do it hard enough, it's a different path. And so they're like, yeah, come on, let's go. This is, all about this stuff. And so it's scary. That transparency is actually a critical part for the ADHD partner to be able to gain back the trust of the non-ADHD partner.
Great. Uh, in your point of view, what are the top 5 skills that a non-ADHD spouse should master in order to thrive in an ADHD marriage?
Okay, number one is aligning your own boundaries with your values. You need to know when something isn't yours to fix or to manage. And that is really hard if your partner is not engaged with better managing their ADHD. And so you have to start making decisions about what am I going to engage with and what am I going to let go. And those, in order to do that successfully and feel good about it, it has to be aligned with your value system. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is to consciously respond in more nuanced ways to the ADHD symptoms. The partner, particularly if that partner is working on their ADHD, they're doing the best they can do. But being able to have some compassion and empathy and flexibility towards those things rather than allowing your own anxiety about what might happen is really important. The third thing is self-care, and self-care is really around not just the things that we think about, like with going and getting a massage or something like that. It's really about creating a life that you care about that isn't just focused on your partner or your relationship, that has a sense of purpose and the kinds of things that the research on happiness show us. Because it's too easy when your relationship is struggling to focus all your energy there. And that's a huge mistake because it raises the stakes for both of you. It doesn't provide you the kinds of outlets that you need to be able to really succeed and to really be happy with, your relationship is one part of your life. It's a big part of your life, but if it's the only part of your life, you're not going to be happy. The fourth thing I would say is get a chore structure in place, but rather than, or task, I should really say, chore is too narrow, but a task and responsibility structure in place that both people are contributing to on an equal level. And that can be really hard for gender bias reasons in our culture where some men believe that they're not as responsible, and equally some women believe they are more responsible. So sometimes you have to give up power in that in order to be effective and, not to be cooking dinner every single night. Okay, takeout's fine as long as I don't have to do the takeout. And so the task and management, the structure of that is really important to keep it going. And also to learn how much actually each of you can accomplish comfortably. It may not be what you think. So being able to prioritize what's really important to do this week and stuff is important. So I think that was number 4. And number 5, I would say, is at some point you've been doing a lot of work. I urge people to really look carefully at who it is they love, not just themselves, but also, are they in love with a partner who they imagine could be in their lives? Which, if you are, that the outcome of that tends to be that you're pushing your partner in a certain direction. You should do this, you should do that. I'd really like it if you did this. Oh, could you talk to me in that way? Right? And so that's a form of not accepting who your partner really is. So I sort of talk about this as, are you in love with a fantasy partner, the person you think your person could be, and maybe they were that way in the hyper-focused courtship beginning of the relationship, or are you in love with the actual partner, the person who's there? We all have those warts, that and our issues that we have. Do you really genuinely love the person, even if they drive you crazy sometimes, that your partner is? So I think that's the 5th one. That comes later, after you've been doing your own work about boundaries and nuanced responses and et cetera.
Yeah, that's so funny. I had to giggle when you said, that fantasy man, because immediately I think about those Disney fairy tale Prince Charming coming in.
Well,
that's
I
what
think,
we
all go
want
into it. Yeah, we go into our relationships thinking that we're going to have a certain kind of relationship. And a lot of that is projections based upon our own desires. But also in these relationships, that hyper-focused courtship where there's extra dopamine, it masks the ADHD. Those courtship periods are often extremely connected and attentive and et cetera. And then when that dopamine goes away, you get the ADHD shows back up, the disconnection can show back up. It can be very confusing. So you remember that old person that you first met, and that was biochemical in part. And everybody has this. It's not just about ADHD. Everybody gets that extra dopamine. It's a sort of a human-based thing to promote the survival of the species, I guess. I don't know. But the marriage research says that everybody is really happy when they first start out, and then the first year after they get married has a particularly steep decline of happiness, and then a less steep decline of happiness down to, you go through kids, and kids are tough and they take a lot of energy. And it's not till about age 55 or 60 that people start getting happier again. So it's tough. And we try, when there's something like ADHD, we have a tendency to say, well, I know my partner could be X because I've seen it before, or because I would be able to go to that place. And the partner's somebody else. That's not you. It's somebody who has different issues and has symptoms and et cetera. So that is a big, important thing. It's one of the things, actually, I wish I had taken a look at earlier in my relationship.
Awesome. So let's say, if there's one thing you recommend an ADHD couple to do to help them restart and improve their relationship right away, what is that thing you recommend them to do, and why?
Okay, I'm going to say this. This is not about self-promotion. This is about the complexity of the issue and the answer. I would say take my seminar. And the reason I would say that is because there isn't just one thing to do. This is about 2 people. So right there's 2 things to do, right? And so, a lot of couples go through the seminar and it opens their eyes. It's 9 or 10 sessions. I think it'll be 10 soon. Really well worth the effort to really understand. So, yeah, sorry. It sounds like self-promotion, but I've been giving this seminar for, 15 years now, something like that, 10 or 15, and I've, continue to improve it as new information comes out, and it's just a really, really helpful way to start to approach these issues.
Nope, not self-promotion, because it's true. I mean, it is a journey. I mean, yeah. I knew about you a while ago, and it took me a while before I took your seminar, and then that helps me kind of figure out what I need to do next. So I think it's a great starting point. So Not just one thing, but it is one thing because you took the seminar.
Right. Well, and hopefully it's you and your partner taking the seminar, just because obviously there are two of you trying to deal with the relationship. So, but that's not always the case. Sometimes people take it on solo.
Cool. All right. How can people contact you if they want to learn more or get more services from you?
The easiest way to do that is to go to my website, which is adhdmarriage.com. And I have a lot of different services, and including the seminar and the non-ADHD support groups. I've mentioned both of those. And I have a consulting group of professionals who work with couples impacted by ADHD. I have a lot of information on the website. There's a blog there. So there's plenty of stuff. So lots of stuff there. And there is also a contact, but we can help provide some direction and some backup and stuff for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Great conversation.
Thank you for asking all these in-depth questions.